Hello again, everybody, and hope you enjoyed the parallel sessions, whether you were on the education session on the CATM side or MRI3 here. We are having the session on demonstration and deployment from today. Dr. Maranda McBride and myself are going to talking about the lessons that we learned from the Aggie Auto project, and then we do have a panel from the community partners that have been helping us through. But before getting to that panel, I would like to provide the overview about the project so that we know how the kind of things that we did and the lessons that we learned, we can discuss it in that way slightly better. So just to provide a little bit overview about the demonstration and deployment from, this is a component in CR2C2 project center that we do have, and the aim is to discuss it with practitioners that have been deploying and bringing a product to the public domains and pilot it or deploy it to whatever degree, and then the lessons that they have been learning throughout that conversation. So the very first talk that we had was by Searcy, which is also here today. It was about NCDOT vision for mobility in North Carolina. That talk was delivered on November 9, 2023, and she talked about the integrated mobility visions, how NCDOT is using automated shuttle program under CASI program. She's going to be perhaps providing a brief overview of that one today too. But then today is the second session, which is about the lessons that we learned, the pilot program that we had back in September 2023. So, and as I mentioned, Dr. McBride and I will provide the overview of the session, followed by the panel discussion that we will have. Going through the pilot program explanations of what we had here, it was, you can see on the right side the route that pilot was implemented. It was, the program was kicked off on September 18, and then followed by almost 1 month deployment of our automated shuttles between A&T campus and Downtown Greensboro. So a little bit background, in 2023, we received funding from different agencies, NSF, NCDOT, and Downtown Greensboro. And then we were able to establish this connected autonomous vehicle testbed that we had. Then it followed by several other funding how to make that testbed operationalized. And then in 2022, we had our rural test track, which you're going to be visiting today, kind of unveiled, and we started testing and deploying autonomous shuttles there. And then finally, in about a year after that, we were able to bring our automated shuttles to the public streets and downtown area. So it was a long journey, but there has been so much support that we have been receiving through different community partners from NCDOT, City of Greensboro, Downtown Greensboro, and police department, fire departments, so many other partners that we have had today, and we're going to be discussing about them. So here is what we ended up. So that was the day that we kicked off the program, the 3 autonomous shuttles that we had. So it was well attended by different leaders across, transportation leaders across the city, the state and federal government, and so many other transportation professionals that joined our demonstration. So I think at this moment, I think we do have a nice video.
Welcome aboard the Aggie Auto Shuttle. This
discusses the whole process that we have gone through to make this program kind of happen. So let's see.
Welcome aboard the Aggie Autonomous Shuttle. This state-of-the-art autonomous vehicle is the result of hard work by talented researchers at North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University. These autonomous shuttles have been developed in order to provide better transportation choices in rural areas as well as connecting places that have little to no access to public transportation. These small shuttles are also economic solutions for areas with low transportation demand for which traditional mass transportation does not work. In a multimodal transportation ecosystem, these shuttles can also complement the mass transportation systems and expand their service range.
These self-driving shuttles, known as microtransit vehicles, are excellent cost-effective solutions for connecting disconnected communities, and these shuttles can complement the existing transportation service and fill the gap on those areas that we don't have so much transportation choices.
Please buckle up for the journey connecting NCA&T's campus to Downtown Greensboro. These two areas are about 1 mile apart, and a trip between A&T's campus to Downtown Greensboro takes about 8 minutes. The maximum speed of the vehicles is 25 miles per hour. There are 2 stops. One in front of the Harold L. Martin Senior Engineering Research Innovation Complex at NCA&T, and the other is in front of the Greensboro Children's Museum, giving riders access to the Greensboro Public Library, Greensboro History Museum, Greensboro Cultural Center, LeBauer Park, Governor's Court, and downtown businesses and restaurants. Such an effective transportation solution can have a significant economic impact on NCA&T's neighboring area, which is known to be a food desert, by connecting it to these downtown resources.
We here at A&T are in a special position because we are in the center of Greensboro, which is known to be a food desert. So the Aggie Auto project will enable access to some of those resources as well, providing people with opportunities to get to the establishments that offer healthier food options. And this project gives us the opportunity to link back to our community and to give back to our community, which is always a goal of North Carolina A&T State University.
Before deployment in public streets, the Aggie Autonomous Shuttles were thoroughly tested under different scenarios to make sure that the shuttles can handle complex environments such as downtown areas. To reach this level of capability, the shuttles have been equipped with powerful computing units and all necessary sensors such as cameras, LiDARs, and radars. These sensors can be thought of as the eyes of the vehicles and help the shuttles see and perceive their surroundings and collect important information to make timely decisions and stay safe while driving.
What is exciting and interesting to me is that our research does not stay within research laboratories. We have been able to bring our research to public roads and the streets. That is a reflection of capabilities of our students and researchers, the excellence in research and education at A&T, and of course the diversity of minds and backgrounds in our team.
What makes me passionate about this project is that we have the possibility to bring our research to public scenarios and test our developments in the reality. Bringing the research from the lab to public streets, like here in the city of Greensboro, you face new, more difficult challenges, mainly because the uncertainty of the road. You don't know what to expect from different driving actors like pedestrians or other vehicles.
By using both GPS and LiDAR technologies, we can figure out exactly where the shuttles are. This helps shuttles stay in their lanes and predict upcoming traffic signs and lights. This information is shown on a high-definition map. These shuttles can also connect to each other, to the riders, and to the internet using 5G. This communication capability brings the shuttles to another level of performance by forming a fleet of connected autonomous vehicles, or CAVs. This connectivity also helps them share where they are and how they're doing in real time. They can even accommodate ride requests from people through a special app made just for these vehicles.
The future is autonomous transportation. Maybe there's a future where people don't really park their cars somewhere, and the future is getting on an app and booking a ride to wherever you want to go. It won't matter if you're within CBD limits, being able to jump into an autonomous car and have it take you anywhere.
The shuttles have also been equipped with a drive-by-wire system that can be commanded by the onboard computers to take control of steering, braking, speeding up, and changing gears. The shuttles are also capable of guessing where other vehicles are going and how fast they're moving. This helps the shuttles make smart choices to drive safely and avoid crashing into things. If the shuttle encounters an obstacle, their self-driving system can quickly slow down or stop completely.
It is exciting to live an era where autonomy and artificial intelligence is changing our world, from air taxis to autonomous driving vehicles, from smart transportation to smart health and smart farming. And what is exciting to me is to see that N.C A&T researchers have a strong presence and contribution to all these domains and pushing the boundaries of research.
This project would not have been achieved without the support from sponsors, including the North Carolina Department of Transportation, the U.S. Department of Transportation UTC program, and the Federal Highway Administration, the National Science Foundation, the City of Greensboro's Department of Transportation, and Downtown Greensboro Incorporated. The project is also greatly benefited by the support from industry partners, including Google, Verizon, Volvo, Intel, and others. These shuttles are a big step forward for North Carolina and make Greensboro one of the pioneer cities to try autonomous shuttles and make better self-driving technology and creative transportation solutions. These shuttles also demonstrate the capabilities of North Carolina A&T researchers as leaders in this exciting domain of autonomy and autonomous vehicles, from surface transportation to air mobility. Thank you for coming on this interesting ride with us. We hope you enjoy your ride on the Aggie Autonomous Shuttles. Stay tuned for more innovations of self-driving technology from A&T.
Thank you. Great, thank you so much. And just a few points about the program that I would like to highlight. First of all, the autonomy of these shuttles, sensor integrations, hardware integration, and the software stack that has been developed here, it has been developed in-house. And that allowed us to make it fully customizable to a great degree that we want. That's one point, and it's important from us from the research perspective. The other important aspect of this project, we push the deployment toward the downtown, which is complex area. So we welcome that challenge. It was quite really challenging, but I think the team handled it pretty well. And then the other aspect of this project was a fleet of 3. So there were I wouldn't claim that it was really we were taking advantage of the full connectivity of this fleet, but there were cloud services that being provided, coordinating. We still can improve the connectivity, and that's something that we are working. But I think it was a big step toward the coordination of connected autonomous vehicles for such a project. It was 25 miles per hour speed, which is quite good, and especially in downtown area, which has quite a lower speed limit, so that 25 miles per hour was acceptable versus so many other kind of deployments that still they have to be driven at a lower speed. So that 25 miles per hour was quite impressive. Then the other aspect of it, it was being deployed and serving an underserved community, which I will explain about that aspect shortly later. And then the multimodal transportation aspect of it. Both of these points I will explain shortly later. So in fact, as Dr. McBride mentioned in the video, the A&T and its neighboring area is a food desert, and it is by different, I have provided here different indexes and tools from the climate economical justice screening tool, going to the ETC tool, or whatever that you're going to be considering. On the right side of this, the red kind of route that you can see is the route that we were using. District 2, the area around A&T is an underserved community, and then the downtown, the establishment in the downtown area is we are not even about a mile away, but really is sort of disconnected, and it is important to establish that connectivity and facilitate the transportation of people from these two close neighborhood and take advantage of the resources that are available there. The other aspect in downtown area, we do have the different services from the mass transportation systems, the micromobility, the train station, the depot train station there, and all of those things are providing an opportunity for us to establish sort of connectivity and multimodal transportation. We had some steps toward that, for example, cross-linking between our automated shuttle application software and the bus transportation GTA software systems, but we can do more, and that's something that we are working through some other projects that we are pursuing to do it further. So a little bit about just very big picture of the data. We were able to have during that time frame giving 250 trips, totally about 162 miles that we went through, and 180 passengers that we were able to have in this pilot program from the public sort of came here to have the ride with the car. We could have done more, and that's and then have more kind of rides with the cars. But these are the things that we are learning about the importance of the community engagement that is needed to make sure that we can have more utilization of a service that we are providing there. And these are the things that we have learned, and we're going to be doing even more. So with that, I'm going to invite Dr. Maranda McBride to provide a bigger picture and details of the data that we had collected during that process.
All right, he's going to come back, by the way. I'm just here in the interim. So during the deployment, we took some measurements of the riders, and essentially what I was doing, I had a study that I kind of tapped into this resource from the beginning. And so I actually was doing a study on SAS, or Shared Autonomous Shuttle perceptions, and I was actually using the Virginia Tech shuttle, some videos that they had actually taken in my study. But then when I found out that we had our shuttles that were actually active on our Gateway Research Center, I asked Ali if I could get some recordings of that vehicle as well. So along the way, when they decided to do the deployment, we decided to extend the survey and the data collection that I was doing to those who were actually involved in the deployment as well. So what I was looking at is the people's trust and willingness, sorry, my picture shifted a little bit over my text, but people's trust and willingness to interact with and utilize these shared autonomous shuttles. And me in general, I'm a human factors person. I'm industrial engineering on the human factors side. So I was really looking at how we might be able to increase their level of trust if they have some level of hesitancy at the forefront. And what I was using in terms of the shuttles was the shuttles were going to serve as an instrument of exposure, so that I'll do a pre-survey instrument to gauge what their interest and acceptance were in the beginning, and then a post-survey after they had some level of exposure. The exposure in the beginning, as I said, were videos that I had received from Virginia Tech of their autonomous shuttle. I recorded some videos of our autonomous shuttle as well, and then we now had this additional element of interaction where they could actually ride in an autonomous shuttle, okay? So these interactions are designed to help increase their level of trust in these shuttles, because many people do not actually know how they operate. They don't really know how to feel about utilizing them. Are they safe? Are they going to stop and when they need to stop? So I wanted to get a feel for what their perceptions were and look at as well their levels of trust in various types of automation and see if that has some level of, gives us some level of awareness of what their perceptions of these vehicles might be in the future. So as I mentioned, we had different cases. So initially, this study was designed to take place in Australia. And I had two different cases where one where the shuttle was not available, that's where the videos came into play, and the other where the shuttle was available. We were not able to get a shuttle in Australia, so I solely did the video exposure in Australia. But here, I'm actually doing the video exposure with our A&T students, or the community, and then we have the exposure that came through the demonstration, and hopefully we may get some additional surveys today when you all have the opportunity to engage and interact with the shuttle yourself. I collected demographic data, of course, pre-intervention, and the interventions, as I said, are the videos and the actual rides in the shuttle. Had a disposition measurement instrument pre-intervention as well, so I wanted to see what were their perceptions of these vehicles in advance. Trust measurement instruments, both pre and post, And then, of course, an automated shuttle intention to use and attitude and satisfaction survey, which was administered pre and post as well. So the goal is to see whether or not there were any differences in their trust and their intent to use these shuttles, as well as their level of satisfaction in the use of these vehicles. The results of the surveys will be assessed statistically. We are still collecting the data, of course, so I do not have any statistical results to share, so I'm just sharing a little bit of the demographics so you get an idea of the user population. So this data is only from the shuttle deployment. It does not include the students that I have actually run on the videos. So essentially, we, as Ali said, we had about 180 riders, if I'm correct. 116 of them agreed to do the pre-ride survey. And of course, afterwards, they received an email and were asked to do the post-ride survey. So most of them did not have access to the post-ride survey until they had returned home. That's one of the downsides of the data collection. I think we would have had many more post-ride surveys if we were able to get the surveys done as soon as they stepped off the vehicle. But just looking at the demographics, you can kind of see the age range. So several of the participants, as you can see in terms of the age, are younger members of our community here on campus. So I don't know if you noticed where Ali said that it was actually deployed, but it left from the Eric Center area, which you'll see this afternoon, and it went downtown a little bit towards where our library is. And so many of the riders, it looks like, were in the age range of our students. But then it tapered off a little bit. As far as the pre-ride, now these are only the survey results. So this is the 116 for the blue in this case, and the 47 are represented by the orange. So you can see the difference in the age range, but they pretty much follow the same pattern. Same with gender, so pretty much an even male-female on both ends, pre and post survey. Race and ethnicity, so the majority of our riders were Caucasian and followed by our African-American primarily riders, but then we also had other ethnicities represented as well. Again, both pre and post. And the highest level of education, we collected that to see whether or not there's any kind of linkages between people's willingness to use these vehicles and their level of education. And most of them are college degree holders. So several of them are in college, but because the way that survey reads, they were not able to say, well, we have college undergraduate degree, but it's obtained. So some of these in the high school, they're actually in college now, but they had to indicate what was the highest degree that they have obtained. And in terms of employment, most were full-time employed. Community type, so we did look at rural, suburban, versus, or peri-urban and urban, kind of an even split between suburban and urban for the pre-ride, and more or less an even split for the post-ride. Not as many rural riders, and since we're a rural community, that's probably something actually it is something that will be addressed because we have projects where these vehicles are intended to be deployed in more rural locations. Most common form of transportation is no surprise. Most of us have our personal vehicles. You do see a little bump here in the walking, but both pre and post ride, but the majority do have their own personal vehicle. And the average hours for those who do drive, the hour of driving, you can see is around 3 to 5 or between 1 and 10 is kind of your main range. Typical reasons for driving, of course, all of these were reasons primarily, but the most common, of course, is work and school. Trips within 10 miles from home, most of those are surrounding the entertainment, social, and grocery store type trips for pre and post, but there was a good variety of others as well. Most common type of journey is business school related. And mobility limitations. Pretty much nobody who participated in the deployment had any type of mobility limitations. Now, in terms of those who had already ridden, the majority had not ridden in an autonomous vehicle before that point in time. but a few had. And what type you can see is the shuttle. I think a lot of these were some of the students who actually have been working on the shuttles. And so, of course, they've had a lot of interactions with them, but some have driven in autonomous cars as well. And we didn't have as many Greensboro residents to participate as those who were outside of Greensboro. So there's definitely more opportunity for us to provide exposure for our community as well. And so that leads into the community engagement. So that's just, again, the statistical analyses will come once all the data collection is completed. Please, I don't know if Ali has already told you about the QR codes. Okay, so I won't steal his thunder. I'll let him do that. But we do hope that you will serve as data points in the research as well and participate in the survey both pre and post. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So, going to the next part, the community engagement part of it, I'd just go back a little bit. As a person that I have been primarily on the lab research tracks, closed tracks, not in public streets. That was a unique experience for me. So I was ready to, I always saying that I was ready, and we knew how much technical challenges would be going from the lab to the test track and then finally coming to the public streets. And that's exponentially increases. Those who are aware of the real world implementation, you know that. And we were ready for that. The thing that I wasn't ready for that, and I learned, and that was a really joyful experience, I would call it, was the amount of community engagement and how important and how challenging could be, but that was made much easier with the great support that we have been receiving from the community and the sponsors that we had. And when it comes to local community, the Downtown Greensboro, City of Greensboro, the police department, fire department, and so much interactions, and North Carolina Department of Transportation, so much interactions that we have had to make this happen. It was a multi-year project, a couple of years ago, that we sit together and say that, okay, whether this is feasible or not, how about regulations, how about safety, how about incident management? Glad no accident happened. But we were prepared. We had a really good incident management in place, which might need another panel conversation just about the incident management. But today, I would like to keep this panel also focused. Perhaps there might be some questions about the technical side of the work, or maybe data side of it, or whatever. Maranda and I are all around, and perhaps during this conversation that we had with MRIs, the research projects that we do have, and during the visit in the afternoon, you can ask that questions. But let's keep this conversation today more or less focused on the community engagement aspects and the role of the organizations that make this project happen. And I would like to, particularly part of this panel, we do have 4 panelists today, and I will introduce one at a time, and they briefly explain a little bit about the background, the organization, and then we go to the conversations about the lessons that we learned about the project. So I start with Sarah Searcy. She's an applied research professional and program manager with over 12 years of experience serving North Carolina to advance safe, equitable, and innovative multimodal transportation throughout the state. As the Senior Advisor for Innovation in the North Carolina Department of Transportation Integrated Mobility Division, she directs projects and programs that she's going to talking about them, CASI, automated shuttles, and so on. So I leave to her that she can explain on that part a little bit more. But also I would like to mention that prior joining NCDOT, she was with Institute for Transportation Research Education at A3. And she was a program manager there, and she's also a Fulbright Award recipient and 2-time East Carolina University alumni with bachelor's degrees in art and anthropology and a master's degree in sociology. With that, I would like to invite Sarah to introduce herself and talk a little bit about herself more. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to share some background on NCDOT and our Integrated Mobility Division and why we are involved with the work here at A&T and supporting it. And so I wanted to share first our vision for mobility in the state, how we are advancing emerging technologies in support of that vision, and how we are involved in testing and evaluating connected and autonomous or connected and automated vehicles for public transportation. And so the Integrated Mobility Division was formed in 2019 through the merger of our public transportation and bicycle and pedestrian transportation divisions. We're providing leadership for safe, affordable, and innovative multimodal transportation throughout North Carolina. We have 4 what we call pillars of mobility that make up our vision for the future in the state. It starts with layered multimodal services or shared mobility services. This is taking a look at our traditional ways of moving people, especially within the context of public transportation and active transportation, and making sure those systems work for everyone, as well as layering in emerging and new technologies as relevant. This could include automated, electric, connected vehicles, new ways of doing shared mobility, and always making sure that these vehicles, these services are accessible to all. We want to connect those services through mobility hubs. This is the concept of creating a location where it's easy for that transportation network users to transfer between modes. These can be socially activated places, places that drive economic investment. It really makes it easy for folks to get around without the need for a personal vehicle. We want to connect these locations through complete streets. This is mindfully considering new roadway projects to ensure they accommodate all roadway users. So this means people walking, biking, rolling, riding buses, driving in their car. We're not going to exclude the car. We want folks to consider all available options and support those options so that they're a reality. And then we want folks to be able to know that these options exist, so we integrate them using mobility as a service. So this is a concept of having an app on your phone or a web page where at one glance you can see every single way you can move in your community. You can plan your trip, and then you can book and pay for that trip on one ticket to ride. And so some aspects of this are in place in North Carolina. I'm very proud of the infrastructure that we have in the state and the ways that we support our public transit systems, the way that we're supporting walking and biking. Some of these are still in development. Ultimately, you can see here we want to make sure that everyone has equal access to opportunities and services through transportation systems that make traveling across shared modes and to destinations near and far as easy and convenient as driving. And so NCDOT's innovation process to evaluate emerging technologies is focused on technology for the public good. Our goal is to rigorously assess emerging technology to determine if it meets transportation needs and can be integrated and scaled as an option in the existing transportation system. This involves talking to people, so do not forget that. And it involves really understanding what you have available now in your communities. So if you haven't ridden the bus in your community, if you haven't explored what it means to take a demand responsive service, try that out. That should be a part of your research. Get to know the professionals in your community who know their customers, that know their people, and that should inform the solutions that you are designing. So we start with that research, testing, and evaluation. NCA&T is a very important part of that. NCDOT has their own studies that they lead within the department. We're investigating and testing out new technologies through small-scale projects. We're evaluating capabilities and limitations, and we also want to understand how the latest and greatest works compared to what we already have. And so there's plenty of tried and true solutions. And ultimately, we have a menu of options to choose from with the goal of creating that system that works for everyone. After the research, testing, evaluation, we want to document best practices and lessons learned through reports, presentations, summaries, all the great work that you're doing now. You can see it surrounding us. And then ultimately, what works well, NCDOT supports towards mainstream adoption and institutionalization. This means larger scale projects. It means taking advantage of those documented benefits, the understood usefulness of the proven technologies. And so NCDOT has an automated shuttle pilot program called the Connected Autonomous Shuttle Supporting Innovation. It was a concept in 2019. The first pilots were launched in 2020. The original program was in partnership with a single company that provides a specific type of automated vehicle. We call it a novel design, low-speed automated vehicle. You could say it looks like a toaster on wheels. That's typically what we hear. What's important to understand about these vehicles is they're not Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standards compliant. They are required to be tested in a research and demonstration context. We have worked to contract with companies and to partner with our local communities for short-term pilots to see how they work within transit. And so I have some QR codes here that you can check out our report for our project at the Wright Brothers National Memorial in the Outer Banks. You can also see the final report from our most recent project in Carey's Pond Park, and we're working on publishing results from our project from last year at UNC Charlotte's campus. And so that's one instance of doing automated driving. We're also exploring automated driving equipped conventional vehicles, especially as they could be useful within microtransit services. We've heard a little bit about microtransit yesterday and today. NCDOT supports planning and implementation of microtransit in the state using conventional vehicles, so a sedan or a minivan. We have multiple projects in revenue phase across the state. We have multiple very strong projects that are working well in our rural communities. So we're taking that foundation. We have proposed to pilot automated vehicles in partnership with May Mobility, with VIA, with the Community Transportation Association of America, and N.C.A&T. So that application is still pending. And then what we're talking about today is all the great work that's happening in the Aggie Auto Lab. As Dr. Karimoddini mentioned, NCDOT has been funding this work since 2020 through the Center of Excellence, through an annual research program project, through a technology transfer program project, and through this UTC. We're very proud to support this work. Again, as an investigation into another way of doing automated driving and in partnership with our local communities. So thank you for giving me a few minutes to provide that background, and I look forward to participating in the conversation here.
Okay, thank you so much, Sarah. And the next panelist that I have the pleasure to invite is Zack Matheny. He's the president of Downtown Greensboro, an independent nonprofit agency which works closely with the private sector and local government to simulate new investment and interest in Greensboro's central business district. Matheny's qualifications blends government, nonprofit, and civic engagement in experience. Since his hiring in July 2015, Downtown Greensboro has experienced tremendous growth with over $600 million investment in development, including numerous new restaurants, shops, as well as new residential and commercial properties. So many of you haven't been in Greensboro, or have you, or it has been your first time that you have been in Greensboro. If you haven't, if you didn't have the chance to go to downtown, please do so. And as a person that I have been living in Greensboro for several years as well, I would say that I'm sometimes behind the developments that are being happening in downtown Greensboro. So we have really a fast progressive progress in downtown Greensboro, and that has been under leadership there at Matheny and his team that is being conducted. With that, I would like to invite him to also provide some remarks. Thank you.
I don't really want to follow her. You did a great job. I was just, Mike Fox, who's the chair of NCDOT, just was texting me about some things. And so I know DOT is doing a lot of things, and thank you for everything you're doing. I am the president and chief executive officer of Downtown Greensboro Incorporated, a nonprofit that tries to, well, we run the business improvement district and try to do enhancements of services throughout the business improvement district. So we did, I don't have a whole lot of fancy slides, but pre-COVID, and I kept looking at the dates of when we started this. We started this in 2019. We started this plan in 2019. And, you know, like most plans, you do a lot of community charrettes, trying to get a feedback from what the community wants. And that's always an interesting process. But everybody wanted us to do a trolley. And, you know, there's trolleys throughout everywhere, right? We have one here, and I'm not a knock on it, because Chris Spencer's coming up in a second, and he had nothing to do necessarily with the trolley. I drew the map for the trolley, but people don't really, they didn't ride the trolley as much because it was a bus. Now, the trolley we have running downtown right now is very successful. It's free, and it has done a great job. But what we really wanted to do in partnering with North Carolina A&T is think about, what is the future of transportation? What is the future of mobility? What is the future of connectivity? It was said earlier that it was a mile to get here from my office, 1 mile. It felt like a generation. That's how sad it is, basically in the South, not picking on Greensboro, that we think a mile is a long way. And so how could we think about the future of technology, but also, quite frankly, partnering with what I argue is the best HBCU in the country, and with the technology that Ollie's team has done. And so instead of focusing on a trolley that is more old school, we wanted to do something that's future. And so I just gotten back from Berlin and saw this thing called an autonomous vehicle. So I did some Googling, searches and whatnot, and found Ollie and said, we want to partner with North Carolina A&T State. So not only can we really build something that connects the future of mobility and be on the leading edge of mobility and connectivity, but also how do we engage the students at North Carolina A&T to come and be a part of the community? Because anybody in my position, we always try to figure out, how do we engage the students? And that's very difficult. This technology helped. The students that we're fortunate to have on campus helped. NCDOT helped. The city of Greensboro. I also wear a dual hat. I'm serving my 5th term as a local elected city councilman. And so we are going to continue to push the mobility. We just released last week new plans right around the corner. Did anybody take the train here? Yeah, one person. That's good. Do you know the mayor of Raleigh took the train here last time she came, like a month ago? But train ridership has increased. And so forms of mobility, we just launched, and Chris will probably talk about it. Blue Duck kind of went to the side, so we're back with Bird on our micro mobility and that. And so what we're looking at to help going in the future, we contributed $50,000 to help Ali and his team purchase vehicles, and then I get out of the way and let the students and the professionals do the technology. And I'm excited to say that the city of Greensboro, we're looking to continue this, and we're looking to potentially, as in Denver, Colorado has 16th Street. Is anybody here from Denver? Been to Denver? Smelled Denver? So 16th Street is about 1.5 miles long or so. That's completely shut down with buses running. They've got a $150 million bond they're going through right now. We don't have $150 million. But we've got some streets that we can shut down. And it was an interesting statistic up there about the female ridership versus the male ridership. So when we launched this, not only was it bad timing because it was COVID, so it's kind of hard to get people sharing a vehicle, right? Nobody wanted to sit beside each other, and especially if I didn't know you. So we're still getting through that, I think, a little bit. But we're looking to implement not only future vehicles with A&T. We have the new investment community with Toyota. They're investing $13.5 billion and hiring 5,000 people just 30 minutes south. Toyota is extremely interested in autonomous vehicles. So I think Toyota is going to be a major player in our partnership going forward as well. And so thank y'all for letting me chat with you a little bit, and I'm going to go here and hang out with her for learn.
Great. Thank you so much. So the Next panelist that I have the pleasure to invite to the stage is Chris Spencer. Chris is a transportation engineering manager for the city of Greensboro, overseeing a variety of transportation engineering and operations functions, including signs, markings, traffic signals, as well as project development and traffic safety for the department. He holds a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering from North Carolina State University and is a registered professional engineer. He previously worked with NCDOT and currently serves on the Greensboro Urban Area MPO Technical Coordinating Committee and chairs the Greensboro Downtown Greenway Technical Committee. With that, I would like to invite him to the stage as well. Thank you.
Good morning, good afternoon. Welcome to Greensboro. It's good to be here to talk to everyone about the City of Greensboro's role in deploying the Aggie Auto Program. Again, my responsibility as Engineering Division Manager, I'm over the signs, markings, traffic signals operations for the City of Greensboro. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the vision and then maybe get into a little more of the specifics about just permitting this and allowing this to operate on city streets. So just going back a bit, back in 2016, USDOT put out a call for smart city applications, and a lot of cities around the country were used that as an opportunity to kind of form a vision for smart cities, and we were no different. We did apply for the program, and as part of that program, it gave us an opportunity to, we were unsuccessful, as almost everyone was, right? There was only a few cities selected. But it gave us all an opportunity to kind of think through how could technology enhance the city. And so you can see some of the goals that came out of that program: improving safety, enhancing mobility, addressing climate change, connecting underserved areas, which I think is particularly important with a program like this, and also supporting economic vitality. As in development of that program, we worked closely with other entities, worked with Volvo, worked with A&T State University, worked with a number of folks to try to form partnerships. And so as part of that, one of the things we talked about in that was to form a test bed for autonomous vehicles circulator. So this is going back to 2016. At the time, you had the Autonomous Vehicle Research Center, and we talked about partnering with A&T on that. So I think that we weren't successful in getting that, but what it did help us do is kind of think about a vision for the city and how we could use technology to kind of improve outcomes for residents of the city. And so I would say that's probably the biggest thing we got out of this, is developing those partnerships and kind of forming those relationships that we could build on. So from that time on, we started working with Dr. Ali with some of his programs. At the time, they were involved in some competitions with, as they're forming their fleet of autonomous vehicles. We worked with them to kind of allow them access to closed roads for short periods of time so they could test in a actual street environment. And then this program came along, and we got the opportunity to work on actually running this pilot program for a period of about 30 days and thinking through how we would actually make it happen. So Dr. Ali had some thoughts already on routes, and we started thinking about, well, does it run on the sidewalk? Does it run on the street? What's a good route? Obviously, one of the things you've got to consider in putting in a mixed traffic environment is they're focused on the autonomous vehicles. I'm more worried about what everybody else is going to do that's on the street and making sure it's safe for them to operate. So the program, the route that we looked at was a good sample of multi-lane roads, which gave folks an opportunity to kind of get around those vehicles. They do operate at 25 and being downtown, that is closer to the operating speed downtown. So that was important for us, we thought. And so we also worked to identify locations for stops, trying to make sure those stops were in a place that was out of traffic. We weren't going to create hazards for riders or for the vehicles themselves. So we had just implemented a kind of a parking buffered bike lane cycle track kind of operation on Church Street out in front of the Central Library. So we did some additional channelization, which you see there, to kind of help guide folks. A lot of motorists were confused about it, so we tried to add some channelization to improve that as well. And then just procedurally, we worked through our special event process, not only to just procedurally to permit it, but also we have special events going on all the time downtown. So trying to identify a period of time when this could operate and not be impacted by other things. So it turned out we ended up doing it right after, it was in September, right after Folk Festival, which is a big downtown event, and before the big Aggie homecoming, greatest homecoming on earth, right? So it turned out to be a excellent program. And so just kind of going forward, we think this is an excellent opportunity for us to continue working with A&T. We're currently working on assisting with a signal installation on the dedicated test track on North Campus. This will give them an opportunity. We want to start testing V2I communications, and because part of the problem, not really a problem, but one of the limitations in the shuttle operation was they had no way to really successfully be sure about what phase the signal was in, right? And so they took over control during the signal operation. So moving towards having that V2I communication so that the signal is broadcasting signal phasing timing data so that the autonomous vehicle can receive that and know what phase it's in and make decisions based on that. That's kind of one of the next steps I think we want to partner on. So creating that signal on campus and then also working with some of the signals here within Central Campus. And then we also worked together on the application recently for the SMART program to kind of look at what's the next phase of this. And I think we'll probably talk about like how could we improve this, but trying to more directly connect it to transit. Like if we could, we've got the downtown hub, the transportation depot, which is, it wasn't that far from where our stop was, but more directly connecting it to that I think would be important. It would make it more visible. You know, we talked about how we could probably do a better job about communicating the service and making sure we get out front and making sure people are aware of it. But we're hoping we can build on this as we're doing our updated transit plan recently, looking at how can we serve the city better with transit. And as Zack will know, as being council member, that's an expensive proposition, right? Running fixed route transit. Transit is key for a city, but there are desires for being connected throughout. And so I know there's been a lot of talk today about rural areas, but in particular, there are areas within urban areas like ours that are difficult to serve by transit, right? So doing microtransit that can kind of do that first and last mile, obviously, is an area where we think this could be successful as well. So that's the end of my presentation. Happy to get involved in the conversation a bit more here. So, thank you.
Great, thank you. The next panelist that I would like to invite is Captain John LeGrand. He worked with the University Police Department since 2011, where he currently serves as a captain of patrol operations. With over 30 years of law enforcement experience, Captain LeGrand started his career with the Greensboro Police Department, where he worked various units, including patrol, community policing, and street crimes units. With that, I would like to invite him to the stage as well. Thank you.
Good afternoon, good morning. I don't have any slides to present, but just wanted to say that being a part of the University Police Department and learning about the AV transportation, when this program first started, we were contacted about what they would be doing and how this would impact campus. And we were given some background about the vehicles. And during the planning phase, the testing that will go on and how we as a agency could be a part of the research and helping the program be successful. Prior to the launch, there was, some test runs on campus. So, we did our part in making sure that the researchers were able to get out and do what they needed to do on campus to do their research, test these vehicles. So as a stakeholder here on campus, when you talk about transportation, we get a lot of calls about transportation. whether it's someone needing a ride, whether it's accident management, and just learning about these AVs. We are having a conversation within our agency. How would we respond to accident management? What would we need to do to be prepared for such events? So we are doing our own research within the agency to better be a partner for this program and its implementation on campus. So that's kind of where we are within our agency. We work with the city of Greensboro in various aspects. We call on them a lot when we have to shut down streets here on campus. When we need something from downtown, we have personnel down there that we contact to assist us with our endeavors here on campus.
Great, thank you so much. So with that, to go back to the previous slide that we had, okay, here. Now, I'm gonna have some questions for the panel, but also we're gonna be opening to the questions to the audience as well. So let's start with this question, reflecting on 2023 Aggie Auto Shuttle Pilot Program. From your perspective, and each of you from different concerns or kind of aspects that you were contributing to the program, what are the lessons that you think that we learned from your personal or organizational perspective that we learned from that program? Whoever that wants to start first.
I mean, I can go. I kind of talked about it a little bit already, but I think in the future, integrating the traffic signal operation will be key to making a more autonomous operation, and maybe a more directly connecting it to our transit so that we can build off of that. One of the things we talked about is we didn't have the scooters at the time, and so the opportunity to kind of maybe have scooters or e-bikes available at those stops might be another way to encourage ridership and enhance that connection. And now that Bird's redeployed, the next time around we should have a better opportunity there. But yeah, I think it was a super successful. We were happy to be part of it. Hope to continue it.
Great. Thank you. Any other opinion you want to share?
Oh, yes. So I was very happy to see how well the communication was conducted amongst the different teams. And NCDOT was able to provide some experiences from the CASI program towards different steps in the planning process for the Aggie Auto Pilot. One in particular, which we found to be important in our pilot since 2019, is what we call a first responder workshop and developing an incident response plan. And so this is a step globally towards engaging the community, but also preparing all responsible parties to respond in the case of a crash with the vehicle. And so you're not only making sure everyone is aware that the vehicles are going to be out there in the world and interacting with people, you're also preparing folks to interact with the vehicle safely and to ensure the safety of everyone. And so it was a really great event that was held. How many folks came in total? Do you remember?
Around 150 to 200.
Yeah, people came from local law enforcement, first responders.
Oh no, you're talking about first responder.
That's
that
correct.
was about 40 people. Yes.
Okay, and the goal was to showcase the unique features of the vehicles to prepare first responders to interact if necessary, related to the energy system, related to the automated driving system, and then to finalize an incident response plan that becomes a document that guides us all during the pilot. And then one area that we talk about a lot with automated vehicles is accessibility. So if the goal is to have these vehicles in transit services and to implement them within mainstream transit services, they need to be able to accommodate people who are using wheelchairs or mobility devices. And this is kind of the next step in the evolution of the shuttles to make sure that all folks can benefit from the amazing capabilities of the technologies and amazing benefits of the technology. So I'm very excited about that.
Thank you. Any other comment?
I think from our perspective, what we learned is how these vehicles would operate in relation to the general public. being able to incorporate them with the normal everyday traffic, how would it impact the traffic flow? Would it cause challenges? But during this launch, we noticed that it did not alter the traffic flow. Most of the general public did not even realize that they were AVs on the street. They continued as their normal activity. So we were able to get a firsthand look at how these vehicles would operate with the normal everyday traffic. And if there were any incidents, how would we respond? We got a firsthand look at, being able to come up with a plan or have some ideas on response to these accidents.
I'll add a couple things. First of all, collaboration's key and communication's key in any relationship or any project, or in life, period. And the fact that you can pull so many groups together and have such good communication and collaboration, and from city to state to law enforcement to students, that's key. We are going to continue to do this. We are going to continue to take it to the next level. I just got another email because I get the city council stuff, and I think we had our third traffic fatality in the last 3 or 4 days. And to offer other means of transportation other than your own vehicle, and in the South, we definitely like our vehicles. And some folks on the bus, we just introduced a cross-town bus route because it would take an hour and a half for some folks to get to their job. We just instituted, and we've been around for well over 200 years. We just introduced a new crosstown bus route that's picking up a little bit, but can get you there within 20 minutes, right? And I'm looking at Chris because he's got the answers. The other thing I would say is education, education, education. Our organization in particular should do a better job of educating the public of what opportunities exist and how this works, because we will connect this through the depot, which is also where the buses go, where Amtrak goes, where a lot of people convene. And so we've got to educate folks on how to use it, because the wait time, if it's 7 minutes versus a bus wait time of an hour and a half, and quite frankly, I buy bus tickets. They're not always, if there's any bus people in here, I apologize, but they're not always on time. I think every time I buy a Greyhound bus ticket for some folks, it's always late. And to have that education of you can ride this AV vehicle, you've got a short-term wait, and you can get where you're going in 7 minutes. And so working on that education component is key.
Thank you. So, any question from the audience? The question was that, what is your vision to addressing some of the disadvantage?
So disadvantaged and maybe people who don't have access to some of these services, how do we go about serving that population? And, to some extent, it's also rural, but there's also urban areas have pockets of underserved communities that require service, but maybe not, they don't have good service, or microtransit or whatever other kinds of alternatives.
Thank you.
I'll go. You're standing right now in an underserved community. This around you in this campus is an underserved community. And so basically, like I just said, like connecting it with the depot, we did some healthcare with our Cone Health system at the depot, because people can get to the depot if they ride the bus or walk. But having the technology here right around this campus will serve folks that have been not served in the capacity in which they need to be or should be or deserve to be. And so by expanding this program, and not only just including it downtown, but included it to work hubs within a short time, I think that is really a large intent of how to invest further in these, because this area is the most underserved area in our city.
Yeah, to build on that, I think microtransit is obviously a huge possibility with this. Zach was talking about it. It can take, 2 hours sometimes on our transit system to get somewhere. And so we've talked a lot about doing these crosstown routes. If you live up north on Yanceyville Street and you just want to get to north on Battleground, you've got to come all the way downtown, and then you've got to go all the way back out. So even within an urban area, doing that little crosstown connector at maybe only a handful of people actually need that service, right? It's not enough such that you actually need a full fixed route. Can serve a need that I think, is a lot more expensive to serve in other ways. So obviously that's the gap that microtransit serves. So I think it gives it that first and last mile. You may be relying on transit, but don't have access to it directly. And so that's the biggest piece I think that it could fill.
Okay, yes.
I have a question. Did you have to interface with NHTSA or the state DMV for licensing or waivers to operate?
So I will explain a little bit of that, and then Sarah and Chris can provide. Our vehicles are FMVSS standards, so versus some other vehicles that are special design and needs to go through those waivers and so on. But we had close collaboration with both state and city and DMV to make sure that the vehicles are okay to be driven in public streets. But I pass it to Sarah and Chris Chris.
Do you want to comment first? Go ahead. Well, I mean, in comparison to the shuttles that we piloted within the CASI program, those shuttles are not Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standards compliant, and they're brought into the United States through a special import program for the purpose of research and demonstration, and that provides the framework for how we seek permission through the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. It provides a framework for the appropriate operating conditions, so there's certain conditions that need to be followed. In the case of the Aggie Auto shuttles, they're FMVSS compliant low-speed vehicles like a golf cart, and then they have an automated driving system that's installed. And as Ali explained, we had many conversations with the appropriate regulatory professionals to make sure that we were following the appropriate rules. Probably, I think insurance was the area that required the most discussion, and it's also a discussion for other types of automated vehicles as well. So some of this is asking the right questions. We may not know all the answers up front, but we work together to come towards a solution that's safe and works for everyone.
I mean, I think they covered it well. It was primarily A&T working with the state to go through the process to operate legally on the city streets. So they were the ones primarily that worked that out.
Excellent. Yeah, I know it's a challenge or some hoops I've been trying to unpack it for a long time. I think, Sarah, you mentioned it, but in your things like we might be doing something in the future on user needs assessments. Have you looked at what the actual form factor of the vehicle would be ideal? Is it the shuttle? Is it the Polaris vehicle? Is it a different type of vehicle? Any thoughts on that? Moving forward in an operational sense.
Yes, so I think this is a good opportunity to talk about the data that we've collected within the CASI program. So the vendors that we contract with provide ridership and operations, which is basic information about the ridership, about the amount of hours that are actually served versus scheduled, how much time the vehicle spends in autonomous driving mode. But we also have data that we collected through a rider survey and through a special engagement event with community members with disabilities and their caregivers. So that engagement event was really important to understand whether this interesting toaster on wheels truly is capable of serving all riders. And so we had some really good feedback just related to this specific type of vehicle about how automated accessibility features would be helpful, an automated wheelchair ramp, an automated securement system. I would say for this specific type of vehicle, folks liked the size and the quietness of it because it was fully electric. We had one comment, which was, I would love to be able to ride. I'm a wheelchair user. I would love to be able to ride with my friend who's also a wheelchair user. So making the vehicle a little bit bigger to accommodate that. I think the biggest drawback for that particular vehicle is called a Navia Autonom that we piloted in Cary and at UNC Charlotte. Had a manual wheelchair ramp, which wasn't satisfactory to the folks that we talked to. And it didn't include audible stop announcements, which is a standard accessibility feature on a conventional transit vehicle. So as an agent of the state, I'm arguing that as we advance these cutting edge vehicles, they need to be cutting edge in all their features, including their universal design.
There is a question on the back.
Yeah, thanks for that. I think kind of tying back to that question of the type of vehicle, and also connecting back to the safety being the priority for United States DOT, I'm wondering to what extent are we also considering this like in mixed autonomy with errant other human drivers, and if they were to like do something outside the control, like, I mean, I know like probably creating vehicles which have like traditional safety mechanisms like airbags in them, etc. But because these vehicles are carrying more vulnerable road users, which traditionally could not drive, I'm wondering like that to what extent is the priority shifting towards also like the safety from other errant drivers that can impact shuttles? Just curious.
So try to a little bit of addressing that we are considering and we have already started the process. We're going to soon have the transit vehicles that are ADA compliant. So that's one aspect, and then hopefully that's going to be addressing a little bit of more those sort of other ADA compliant sort of things that we can go that direction. That's one thing. Then maybe I would pass this also to Sarah and Chris or Zach if or you would like to add any additional comment to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that surviving, I mentioned my concern was the other vehicles. People do crazy things, right? We've had several fatal crashes this week, and it's often illogical decisions, and just having them in a vehicle where it's survivable if something happens is super important. So I'm happy to hear that we're moving towards that. And I think also that accessibility thing is key, like larger vehicles that can support accessibility. And also we need to look at the individual stops and making sure there's accessibility at those stops, sidewalks, other things that connect to other infrastructure. But yeah, improving the vehicle itself is, I think, a positive development we can work on.
I have one more comment too. I'd like to commend the Aggie Auto team and how well they explain the technology to riders. I rode many times and had it explained to me many times because I just enjoy hearing about how the automated driving system works. And so even when you make that system fully driverless, there will be a need to educate folks about how this is working and to ensure that they feel comfortable with the experience. And at the same time, people are really important to assist riders using mobility devices. So until that entire system is automated, we need to think about what that role means. So if we are giving over the driving task to the system, what other useful tasks can that person do to ensure that riders and customers are comfortable and they're getting to their destination safely?
I have two quick questions. So first, do you have any plan for the next phase to make these vehicles higher speed, a little bit higher speed, so transition to higher speeds? And my second question is about connectivity. So the vehicular networking or vehicle and other system networking. So do you have any plan to expand to more networking integrated with your test beds, when the vehicle to everything?
So the maximum speed limit of these shuttles is 25 miles per hour, and we often were driving with that speed unless, for example, it's charters or whatever. So that was being driven at a lower speed sometimes, but most of the time we were driving in that level, which is quite to the speed limit that we do have in the downtown area. So that's one thing. But we understand the need. Okay, now how about other areas? We have a sort of heterogeneous fleet of autonomous vehicles. We have Pacifica van and different other types of vehicles that can be driven at higher speed. So we are exploring that. We just released some results on driving vehicles at 40 miles per hour. I can share with you videos of that one. So we do have 40 miles per hour driven in rural areas. We were getting there, so that was comfortable. But at the same time, we're going to be making sure that safety is we are not getting to the point that that we are compromising safety. So we're going to be on the safe side. So that's one point. As far as the connectivity, we are closely working with the city of Greensboro, establishing 2 intersections starting the V2I communication, as Chris Slice was mentioning about it. So that's one aspect. One of the challenges that we had disengagement of the autonomy and the driver takeover at the intersection, primarily because the onboard traffic signal detection is not fully reliable, and sometimes if even for a small percentage you mistakenly see the red light as a green light, that's going to end up with disaster. So we had a override there, but we're going to be fixing that with the V2X communication as the immediate next step. But we had connectivity to the cloud between the vehicles and so on, but intersection is our next immediate steps that we are working on it.
I just have to one follow-up. The software elements, you can download the data in the vehicle from the signal controller, and you can also download data from the signal. For example, ATMS now, you use what we communicate to the signal controller. So whenever it senses there's a vehicle coming, autonomous vehicles, it can send the signal phasing and timing to your vehicle. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying that should work very well. That just sends the data to your vehicle.
That's exactly what we are heading, right?
Yeah, our software, we have central ATMS.now, and so we already have we're already putting out the SPAT data on a server, but the next step is putting it at the intersection, right? So that the vehicle at the intersection is getting that communication. I mean, we talked probably 10 years ago now. I did a presentation talking about connected vehicles and where I thought it was going at the time, and I thought by now we would have it in every vehicle, right? And so I still see that that's a super an area where we'll eventually get to, where I think the vehicles will be telling the intersection where they are, and so we don't have to do these magnetic loops in the pavement that degrade easily. So I still think that's a place we will get to. It's just going to take longer, it seems, than we had hoped.
I have 2 questions. One of your presenters, mentioned, the goal of this, program includes, one is on help, underserved, communities. My 2 questions are, first one is what are these, critical problems, the underserved communities are facing, and how will this autonomous, or connected vehicles can help solving these problems?
Oh, sure. So I think one interesting idea right now is many rural communities in our state have demand response services. And so these are public transportation services that provide pre-scheduled trips, typically for non-emergency medical transportation or trips to the grocery store to meet the needs of daily life. Some communities are thinking about, they use the term commingling, general population trips with these pre-scheduled trips that are typically supported by Medicaid. And so you think about a rural community where more folks who would like to not have a car or leave their car at home. They want to access public transportation. The only option they have is pre-scheduled trips. How can you improve that existing system, which is comprised of amazing professionals who know their community really well, the people in their community really well. They may have their own vehicles, their own ways of providing that service. How can you improve that? Not necessarily going to automated vehicles from the start. How can you improve some of the existing transit technology to serve more riders? And then you start thinking about improving infrastructure. Okay, I'm taking transit somewhere, but maybe I need to do a little bit of walking or rolling to meet my final destination. And there's no sidewalks, there's no bike lanes. So we think about the system holistically. We think about the system across all the options and how in small ways we make changes and they ultimately end up in a big change, which is we use the concept system of systems that's serving everyone. So that's kind of the big picture vision of not discarding methods that we know work really well for moving people. We are trying to optimize those and layer in emerging technologies where they make the most sense. And, you know, right now, I think I'm in the position based on the testing we've done in CASI and what I'm learning from partnerships with N.C.A&T and our other universities of, you know, the big question is how can automated vehicles and emerging technologies meet the need? And is it doing that right now? If it's not doing that right now, how can we improve it? It's maybe not a, you know, fully mature solution, and we want to gather input from the people that we think would be helped the most, and we want to understand their lives as they live them now, the options that they're using now, as a basis for that investigation.
Great. So, Captain LeGrand, I do have one question from your perspective, especially from the first responders' perspective, and the workshops and the whole practice that we went through. How do you feel about the values and impacts of those process that we went through from your personal organizational perspective?
From our perspective, to see this technology evolving, we within our agency, we've added some advanced technology platforms to aid us in our efforts to make sure the campus is safe and secure for faculty, staff, and guests that come to campus. So to see this program and to hear about the research and how you're trying to make it safe, I think is outstanding. We currently have a real-time crime center within our agency where we can see things going on real time. So to be able to have these AV vehicles and be able to monitor them real time, I think is excellent. We also have like the Starship program on campus, and to see how these robots are able to maneuver from one location to another location is having the idea of AV vehicles doing the same thing but just with people, I think is outstanding.
Great, thank you. So to any of the panelists that you would like to take these questions from your personal or organizational perspective, do you think that we are, I mean, this was a small scale implementation, but do you think that we are ready for larger penetration rate of AVs and deployment of AVs? What do you think? What are the challenges, major challenges that we might be dealing to get to higher rate of deployment of AVs in our public streets?
Well, the vehicles need to be fully autonomous first. And so there are no fully autonomous vehicles available right now. And so, again, I'm just very thrilled and proud of what's happening at A&T to develop the technology and to develop the technology in partnership with the community to make it work with the community. And so, you know, a vehicle that can operate in all conditions safely, with no incident, without the need of a human at all, that's what the goal is. But we are recognizing that we still need people in many ways, whether it's for driving the vehicle or helping those who are using the vehicle to educate our communities about the vehicle, which is not a bad place to be in at all.
Yep.
I would just add, I mean, the research you're doing towards autonomous vehicles is important. I think it's going to be a long ramp up to get that acceptance with the public, but doing these pilots where folks get exposure to it and get start to learn some acceptance. I mean, I think folks are starting to see the benefits of it already. If you've bought a new car within the last 5 years, there are autonomous features within those vehicles, and it's already, I think, starting to show safety benefits. You know, the ability to detect a pedestrian and brake for you. So, you know, full autonomy. You know, it's a process, and you guys are keeping the ball moving forward. Ultimately, you know, people make mistakes, right? And so I think long term, once we can get there, I think we can significantly reduce the number of crashes on our system once we get there. But you've got to keep the ball rolling, and that's the important stuff that you guys are keeping going. Okay.
Money. You got to pay for it. You got to pay for technology. You got to pay for vehicles. So my friend to my left at the NCDOT, we need more money. My friend to the right at the city of Greensboro, we need more money. I think that's a key thing, because without the money to pay for all this, it doesn't work. It's interesting, in the city of Tampa, they bought 7 Teslas and the downtown organization. And the ridership to help serve underserved communities and everybody was pretty stellar when it was free. And they figured out that's not a sustainable model. So they're charging $1.50 per ride. And we have a downtown, probably many of you do, a downtown hospitality ambassador team. They've got Tampa, the ambassador team, driving the vehicle. But as y'all know, Tesla does have, as Chris mentioned, some driverless features. And so it works for them because the ambassador can tell them about the city, the community. For the folks that aren't here, it would be nice to have somebody that actually knows the city carrying you around or talking to you, and then evolving into autonomous and working. But at the end of the day, we got to fund it, because nothing's free.
Great. There's a question here.
Yeah, maybe just to follow up on, we need the money. You're involved in that kind of economic development role with downtown. Where do you see the private industry, if you're looking to, say, block down some right of way, create some mobility, where does private industry come in to invest in systems like this?
So in our case, like I mentioned, Toyota has a $13.5 billion investment, 30 minutes down the road. That began, they announced it probably 3 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. We set that forward probably 15 years ago. They just made a $2 million investment in our school systems for STEM education. $1 million for Randolph, $1 million for Guilford County Schools, which we're sitting in Guilford County now. I think Toyota can be a major partner with North Carolina A&T to help fund, in addition to the state and local businesses that are along the way. There's a street called Church Street, a couple blocks up, which is right where one of the stop-offs for the Children's Museum was. I've already talked to businesses along that area because it's an underutilized street, and it's humongous. We could make lanes on that street, and I talked to some of the business owners along that street, and they would love it because there's not really trees on the street. It's just a big old street. And so I think private businesses would help fund it through advertising, but I think larger corporations would be interested as well.
Great. There's a question over there.
Yeah, just a quick question regarding the micro transit. I think we got the concept called the micro mobility, right? The integrating a lot of different way of the last mile travel, such as the scooter. We saw a lot of scooter on the street yesterday night in the downtown area. So regarding the future, going to the future, right? Right now, this micro transit have the kind of fixed route with the kind of designated stop, right? So how are you going to integrate that micro mobility into this kind of system? maybe there's some kind of plan in the future, right? If you can share that.
Yep. So you saw the last piece of the video, so that was a hint, but I pass it to Chris.
Yeah, so we're literally just launching the new BERT service now, and so starting to identify stop locations, right? And so part of what we're identifying are those key locations, and the longer you have the service in place, you start to see where people want to go, right? And so you can move your stops and make more vehicles available at certain locations. But I think tying it into transit, and I see George is here with GTA. I think it gives that last mile type of connection. We're just starting on microtransit, so we don't really have much in the way of microtransit service yet. But we see that. I think I can speak for GTA. They see that as an opportunity to kind of fill some of those gaps going forward. And micromobility and microtransit kind of serve the same. If it's not a last mile, it's a last quarter mile, half mile. You may not be jumping on a bus. You might be jumping on a scooter or an e-bike and making that gap. So they kind of serve the same purpose, but maybe not for every trip, right?
Also, I have one question. I'm just curious to know if you have any plan to educate people, because this is like advanced technology and a lot of people probably have heard about it but don't know how it works. So is there like any special plan from your side that you think that can help people to get educated and understand how this system works?
Yeah, I think that's something Ali talked about, is maybe something we could do better with our next deployment, is be a little more, and our city communications folks working with A&T to get the word out about it, but also like what is it? Like people may not even know what the service is and how we're trying to make it safe. So I think it's something on our next deployment we should probably focus on a little more with the public. Yeah.
Probably people, special like user experience research that might be needed to conduct around this, because this is like the interfaces that we have like with our laptop or like our cell phones have been developed in the past 10-20 years. But these systems probably will need different type of interfaces with humans. So I think that might need a separate like research.
Right.
So yeah, there is a two-end effort, one from our technology side to make it more kind of user-friendly, and then the other side is the education side that Chris was commenting. But any other comment in response to the question? Okay, if not, I would like each panelist take a moment and provide final remarks, and in the final remark, particularly if you can mention, if we're going to have another future demonstration, what is your suggestions to do to make it better and more effective, if there is any comment. If not, that's fine, just provide the final remark, and then that will be the conclusion of the panel. You're going to start.
In my final comments, like I said before, advancing technology is interesting to see. And for us within our agency, we're continuing to have the conversation of how we would respond as an agency and be able to effectively investigate any issues with AVs. It's something certainly new with the technology we have. It's manned by the human factor, but to get out in the roadway and to see these vehicles operating within the general public, and once we get there, there are no human factor involved, then that is something we have to talk about and prepare ourselves for. So that is the conversation that we're having within our agency.
I think the natural next step is to look at more of a permanent deployment, but also like getting a vehicle that's accessible, like we've talked about already, more of a full-size vehicle, and then looking at more intentional connections to public transit and serving a specific need. I mean, this is one, but like also making those connections so that you can easily transfer to other services. So I think that's the next step, and like we've talked about already, the V2I communications, it seems like a key part to make this continue to advance the fully autonomous nature of the vehicle.
Money.
Yeah.
Money. I would say that inviting key potential corporate partners to come experience it, to help potentially fund it and invest in it and invest in the technology. And again, I would just reiterate, Toyota is a great opportunity for us to connect because they were talking about it. They talk about it. Our organization is small, but we have about 40,000 Instagram followers. Our reach last year reached about 1.1 million people. So when we're on board, and that has grown, it grew 14,000 in 2023. So using that social media platform to get out and educate people better. Is there any media in here? Good, so we can talk about them. We don't have a good media cycle here. We just don't. And so the media is the social media driver. And to have that, and we got the Facebook, the Instagram, they're doing TikTok and Snapchat, that social impact media to drive the message, to educate people of what it is and how to use it, I think is key. But money.
So I would say be curious. Be curious about what's already happening in your community and the transportation options that already exist. If you haven't ridden the bus in your community or tried out demand response, do it because you're responding to what is already here with what you're proposing. And we're trying to stay curious by doing a request for information on automated transit vehicles. The last time that we really took a good look at what was available out in the private sector was 2019, so a lot has changed since then. And then thinking through what the next generations of pilots might look like in North Carolina, and that includes continuing our strong partnerships with N.C.A&T, with our universities, and all the amazing folks that make this work happen. So thank you very much.
Great. So thank you so much, the panelists, the points that you raised. One last question.
Well, I just wanted to make an observation as a former USDOT employee that helped set up the Smart City Challenge. I think, and for looking at this, the automated shuttle systems for a better part of 10 years now and working in private industry, this has been one of the best panels. Most diverse, most one-voiced, talking with one, kind of vocabulary. And I'm super excited to be, with Dr. Ali now on the advisory board. And I think what a perfect place to keep moving forward. So thanks to the panel for, continuing that education and, striving for the future.
Great. Thank you so much for the comment. And there is one question.
All right, just one last parting shot, a comment, and a half-serious question. Stephen Jones from the University of Alabama. This is amazing. I echo everything that Matt just said. This is great. Can I fly y'all down to talk to Greensboro, Alabama?
Sure.
Great. Okay. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you. There is still few. Yep. Thank again the panelists. There are still a couple of more points that I wanted to make. Make sure that the Aggie Auto information is there. Feel free if you want to have more information about the Aggie Auto. And with that, thank you again.